dominant name. Jas Takhar, best in the game. Mamba mentality in his own lane, so better pay attention to what he be saying. Get the message, ain't no question. Giving advice for any investment. Welcome to the broadcast, the Jas Takhar Podcast.
Okay, so we're live. I got the thumbs up from my boy Nikki. Big shout out to Jas. He's not here today, but I'm glad that I got Nikki, who's really wears I don't know how many hats around here. But big shout out to you, Nikki. Woo. Thanks for taking control. And the voice that you just heard, if you are driving right now or taking your dog for a walk or walking on the treadmill, some of you might know that this is a returning guest. However, the last time we did this, we were on Zoom because we were all stuck at home during COVID. But I had to, no matter what, the day that I started with this new studio, I was like, I got to bring some guys and gals back because I want to have them in person. And it was a no-brainer to have Mr. Kory MacKinnon. How you doing, brother?
Excellent. Thanks for having me on, Jas. Well, and thanks for actually speaking on our stage last night.
I appreciate it. It was late last night that we finished. It was an amazing time I had with your crew, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, brother. You got, and I said it to you last night. I'll say it again on air so everybody kind of catches on to it and understands that the importance of meetups, man, and that's something that we're going to talk about. We're going to go all over the place today because you have a really cool background and what you're up to, but what we didn't get to the first time we did this was that whole journey. And so I wanted to make sure we touch on that. But your group that you are now, putting together of members, I guess it's safe to say that's what do you have a different name for them?
Yeah, the members, it's our community.
It's your community, yeah. Right? Really action takers. And I say that because I've been blessed enough to be on a lot of stages with entrepreneurs, real estate investors, real estate agents, kind of doing my thing on stage. And every time that I do a portion of my talk and I ask people to do something, specifically shoot a video on the spot when they had no idea that it was coming up. I don't think you guys mentioned anything. No. And not one person, in fact, I even said it on stage. I said, well, I'm going to give everybody a minute to, go to the washroom now. This is the time that everybody's going to sneak out. Not one person left. And then within 5-10 minutes, Nikki, you were there, right, brother? Everyone was recording a video. And then the best thing was today in the morning, majority of the people posted it. They tagged it, they posted it. I'm not just talking about something in their stories, which is okay in itself because the story is of like Kory or me. They're not actually putting themselves on the camera. All these guys and gals did it. So for everyone, and I know that majority of them are going to be watching and listening to this as well. Kudos to you guys. Massive, massive congratulations because you took action. And what I've come to learn, and obviously it's why Kory's here and he's going to touch on this stuff. There's a reason they're called the 1%ers because the 1%ers do what 99% of people won't do. And that usually comes to taking action. I mean, Kory, you live this, brother. Like, would you agree with what I'm saying?
I do. And, I think it's with all this access to information now, I think action taking, I know action taking is coming down more, right? So when there's less access to information or before smartphones and all that sort of stuff, I think people were more intentional, more clear, more focused. And that's one of the biggest things we got to do with people is help them with the clarity, focus, execution, get to action taking. One of your favorite books that you've mentioned before on your podcast or your shorts is just like, guys, like, do more fire ready aim. You can always course correct along the way. And, too many people are just trying to get that perfect execution, which is not going to happen. Just don't epic fail out of the gate. I mean, it's like you got to get some guidance and have a plan.
I agree, right? Like, look, the number one rule in business for me is always to stay in business, right? And so I don't take massive risks that's going to put me out of business, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to take some risks. Like, just putting yourself out there on video, doing a podcast. I mean, the content that you're putting out there in the last, and you're going to correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a funny feeling it was about, and so now you know that I actually creep you and watch you, 18, 20 months, like you went really hard. And where did that come from? Like, how did you just jump on that and say, okay, I'm going to do this now? Because you were doing it before, but I feel like it was sparingly, right? It wasn't as focused. Like, we're now like, fuck, I can't get away from you, bro.
It's kind of like, you post just your A-roll stuff once or twice a month. And at least I started posting because I remember one of my earlier mentors, he's like, why aren't you really on anything right now? You're posting like once a month. And I said, well, we were having kids and stuff like that. I'm like, if you want to go find out what we're doing, go follow my wife's channel. She's posting like 3 times a day. So she was triggering their algorithm like crazy. And sometimes I just ask her, like, post about this and we'll see if anybody has a solution for it or whatever, right? But he's just like, look, you're in the trenches every day doing this stuff. Just document, post what you're doing. So I started doing that. And then I met this guy who was just off camera here. He was recording as well. I brought my camera guy in today. And
what up, Caden?
Yeah, there we go, Caden Gibb. He's like, let's just start doing some work together, right? He's filmed a sizzle video for a flip that I just finished, and literally after that flip, I said I'm taking off on a little trip. We took off, and that's when COVID hit, right? So we came back, and about a couple of weeks later, I'm just like, do you want to keep doing some stuff together? Like, how's your client base and all that stuff? He's like, everybody's afraid. I'm like, I'm not afraid. How about we just start shooting content, right? So for me, it was a big deal to do 3 videos a week. Then it was 4 videos a week. Then it's 5 videos a week. And now we're like, okay, should we be doing stuff on weekends too? Yeah. So that's,
it becomes fun. I mean, I know a lot of people who are listening right now is like, yeah, it's easy for you guys to say, right? Like, you guys are doing it. You have a team.
It doesn't just happen like
exactly, right? Talk about that. Like, when you got started, did you have some insecurities around it?
A little bit. Like, you think like, oh my gosh, like this is, people just overthink things, including ourselves, because we're top performers, right? So we're going to be harder on ourselves than everybody else. But at the end of the day, there's going to be people that love you and support you. There's going to be people that don't like you, and there's going to be people that don't know who you are. So just focus on the people that don't know you, and they can get them into that like loving and supporting bucket of yours. And you get better with your communication skills over time, for sure.
I think that's important.
It's got to be real. Like, people do trip on their words. People do say ums and ahs, and it is what it is. Like, I'm conscious of it, but
yeah,
it still comes out sometimes.
And do you find that even when you might do like an and an ah, like you just kind of get over it quicker now, right? Like, you don't stop necessarily. I bet you half the time you just keep rolling, and then let Caden do his thing. If he wants to edit it out, he can edit it out. If he doesn't, he wants to leave it in, leave it in. Do you find that happens a lot now?
Yeah, like sometimes you need a clean take, but
for sure,
it is what it is.
I love that. Okay, so you're up to so many things, and I want to talk to you about so many things about like investing into real estate, what you think about what's going on in the market. You're really like, you got your feet to the ground. You're an investor yourself. You were telling me about a story yesterday, like you have to go collect rent, and like you're really in it, right? Yeah. And so I love that, and that's one of the main reasons I have you here. But I want to talk, because I don't really know this, and so my viewers and listeners know this podcast is really for a selfish reason. I just get to meet cool people and hear their stories and get to learn things, and then hopefully someone picks up on something. So high school Kory, right? Go back for a bit.
Sure.
I'm not going to age you and say way back or anything, but go back for a bit. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, who were you there, man? Like, were you a sports guy there? Like, were you in the books, not in the books? Like, what was your thing?
Yeah, I kind of describe myself as a quiet jock in high school.
What was your sport?
I was on the national weightlifting team.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, I was competing at the national level ever since I was about 15, 16. And that's like, for the CrossFitters out there, that's putting heavy weights over your head, clean and jerk, and the snatch, and those kinds of things. And people are always like, so you're a wrestler? I'm like, no, I'm a weightlifter. And there just wasn't any exposure for it, because there was no CrossFit games. There was none of that stuff that's getting a ton of exposure. It's been great for the sport as well once I've left. But so that was my main sport. But then I do track, and I did some volleyball and stuff like that. They wanted me to try out for football, and I literally tried out. I ran at the biggest guy on the team. They called him Moose. And I dislocated his shoulder, and I was like, sorry, man. I guess I just got a lot of power, right? But I was never into hockey, contact sports, any of that stuff. So it just didn't really make sense. Like, why would I go and like just run and
it hurts someone,
skate as fast as I could into somebody?
Got
like,
it. Yeah.
I'd rather run fast and
right.
do something and score or something like that, but not like just the contact stuff just didn't make sense to me. So, but I treated school like a sport. Definitely it was like about getting good grades and all that. I was doing stuff that other kids weren't doing. Like, I wasn't really part of the popular crowd.
Yeah.
And looking back at it, I don't think I really would want to be a part of the popular crowd, because they haven't really gone on to do a whole lot. Some of them have gone on to do some, great things, like do well in sales or whatever. But a lot of them, that was kind of like their peak of their life. It's like being popular in high school.
For sure.
Yeah, like I was peer tutor club, ran the camera club, things that weren't cool back then. But now it's like I took my peer tutoring background to like now I coach people. I've been coaching people for like 30 years.
Funny how that works out. And then you talked about the good grades and stuff like that. So I take it you went into the university realm, college. What did you do afterwards, like after high school?
I did. I mean, my sister went to university and then she dropped out 4 months later. She spent all my dad's money. So she was a black sheep of the family. She kind of ruined everybody else's chances. And, hey, everybody's on their own path. She's a fantastic mom. She's got 6 kids now. That was her path.
That's awesome.
For sure. So for me, someone who actually wanted to go to university, but then even then, it's like I just wasn't in the vibe. I'm like, so I've done really well, but it's like I just want to get to it. Like I want to get out there. I want to start doing something, right? And so I did a victory lap. I tried to improve my grades. I'm like, I'm just not going to do this stuff, right? Like I'm not going to move away from home. I'm not going to do any of these things. So I worked for a year, worked 3 different jobs, and then my guidance counselor did call me back. He's like, look, because they were great with staying in touch with you for about a year out of school, and he's like, there's a new program at college. I think it'd be right up your alley. It's sports rec and admin, so you get some business, and you can also like still feed into your athletic background, right? Maybe you work for a sporting team, maybe you'll run a gym, maybe just go into business for yourself because it's half business classes, half sport, rec, leisure, anatomy, all the things that I was already into because I thought I might want to go into kinesiology.
That kind of makes sense to me, right? And you're sorry, you were saying kinesiology?
That if I was going to go to university, it was going to be for kinesiology.
Okay.
Either that or engineering.
So now you go back to college for this.
Yep.
Okay. And then what's that first job that comes out of there then?
Yeah. So in between first and second year, I saw this ad in the newspaper. It was like managers wanted, please, apply, need a driver's license, need strong work ethic, all these different things. And I was like, wow, manager. All these jobs I've had when I was young, I wanted to be the manager, but they're like, you're not a good investment. You're going to leave. Like you've got bigger plans in your life, right?
Yeah.
So they never would give you a shot at a manager because they were looking for the lifers. So this was like running a student franchise, painting franchise. So I did that for a year, did really well, and came back again, set the sales record for the area. And then they're like, how about you be a general manager, district manager? I worked my way all the way up to VP of operations for Eastern Canada. So for half the country, I was running all these student painting franchises, and we helped to triple the size of the business. And it's still going right now. I come back as an alumni speaker. They're doing about 30 million in business.
And what area is this in?
This is just in, really it's like Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes.
Got it. And how old would you have been at this time now when you got to that VP kind of stage?
Yeah, I was VP at 25 or 26.
Oh my God, okay.
Right, so I did that for 12 years. It took me a few years to get up to that position, did that for another 12. Retired 10 years ago, almost to the day, like it was October.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Right, so.
And so from that time, is that when you started to get into the real estate stuff?
Yes.
How did that all happen?
Yeah, so I was, my dad dabbled in real estate a little bit, so we actually grew up in a duplex.
Okay.
And kind of like in an area where like literally right across the street from my house, they're building all these new homes. And I was living in the old home, like I think it was 50 years old at that time. People call it the haunted house because it was older. Maybe it was 60 years old at the time. It's definitely 100 years old almost now. But so I saw my dad dabbling in this. It just seemed normal. It's just like it's your new normal when you're exposed to it at a young age.
And so, but what did he dabble in? So you have the duplex. You were renting out the basement?
The upstairs.
Oh, and you guys lived in the basement.
We had pretty much the whole house except for like the loft.
Okay.
They built out with a few dormers.
So you kind of had, as you mentioned, a little bit of experience with tenants at that time, right?
I'm like, Dad, where are you going? Oh, I got to go fix the toilet upstairs. Or I got to go collect the rent or whatever, right? And he had a separate semi on the other side of town. And sometimes we'd be in the car. He's like, I got to go inside and, go and have a conversation with the guy. And sometimes he'd come back to the car. He's like, guys, I'm going to be another 5 or 10 minutes because he wants me to have a beer and whatever. So they got the rent. So just seeing him do that, it just seemed to be normal. And it seemed to be smart, right? It's like house hacking back then or just helping to, I think there's more entrepreneurial type people. His parents came from Europe, and it's just the way it was. Like you needed to have a bit of a side hustle back then. So, but then at Student Works Painting, my boss, he was house hacking. So he was living on the main floor of a duplex in Waterloo. So he had 5 rooms there. And he was doing everything back then before the double cohort. He was turning a living room into a bedroom and a dining room and this and that, right? So, and 3 bedrooms in the basement. So I was like, well, if Chuck can do it, I'm sure I can do this too. So I saved up my commissions and things like that. And after 4 or 5 years, I bought the 6-plex I was renting out of in London, Ontario. So
is that the first one?
Longer, yeah.
Did you, at that time, if you can go back, right? I mean, that seems like, definitely for majority of people who are listening to this are going to be like, holy shit, man, at that age, that seems like a big undertaking. in terms of getting a sixplex. That's not where majority of people start. Even now with all the information, the coaching and all of that and all the networking opportunities and meetups, it's still something that most people don't get involved with at the start.
For sure.
I
lived there. I rented there for 4 years. I got to know the building, and my landlord was kind of like my first unofficial mentor. So I was doing some boots on the ground stuff for him. I'm like, hey, anything I can do to help out. I'm just a helpful person, and I have a contracting background. You want me to bring painters in, cleaners in, get quotes for you, whatever you want me to do. And he gave me a few. He's like, yeah, just stick to painting. If you're good at painting, I'll have some units for you.
Okay.
But then I was like, I want to learn more, right? So can you show me some of your units, some of your properties? And we'd go for breakfast at like 7 a.m. on a Saturday because he's like, that's the only time you're going to get with me because he's busy. Right, so that's a free. It's getting free mentorship.
100%.
You gotta go when they say jump. You gotta say how high and where. So I got to learn from him, and then he'd just throw out prices. He'd be like, "Do you want to buy this place? You want to buy this piece of junk someday?" I'm like, "It's not a piece of junk. It's a pretty good house."
Yeah.
And he'd just throw out numbers, and I'd be like, "Yeah," and then the numbers would keep going up. And then one day, one of my staff texts me, and they're like, "The place that we run our payroll meetings or team meetings at, there's this for sale sign on the lawn." I'm like, "What's going on?" So I called him, and I was like, yeah, what's up? I thought we were going to try to make a deal someday if we're going to sell this. And he's like, well, I got a partner, and he wanted to put it on the market, and we're trying to catch a flyer and, fish for a number and all that stuff. And it didn't sell, so he came back to me 3 months later.
And you guys just put like a
put
private
together a
deal.
There was like some things that were falling apart on inspection, like asbestos tile roof, knob and tube, galvanized. He fixed up all that stuff, and then I bought it more turnkey, which was great anyways. Because I don't, just like you, I didn't want to deal with all that stuff.
Perfect. Somebody who's thinking about starting now, where do you think like they should get started, and how should they get started? It's that, I feel anyways, it's always the first property.
Yeah.
Is the toughest one, just to know that it's real. It's not, I think you're an awesome guy, Kory, and I think I'm an awesome guy, but there's really not that, in my opinion, that much that makes us extraordinary, other than the fact that we do some of the ordinary stuff extra. Like we just do and try a lot of things. But people, I want you to speak to the person who's still scared to make that first step into investing into real estate. How do you suggest they get started?
Well, maybe now, instead of trying to, because even like back then, sixplex was still a big deal.
For sure.
So maybe now it's just going to be like getting your first duplex or triplex. Things are definitely more expensive. So, but people need to have that income helper. And I think that's going to be a trend moving forward. It's going to become more like Europe, where real estate just becomes more and more valuable because there's less and less of it. And unless you're living in some kind of like income helper, multi-generational type of a house, how are you going to get your first one? It's going to get harder and harder to afford it and to do it. So I just let people know, number one, you got to find ways of making extra income because you're not getting raises at your day job. So it's okay to have that side hustle, that job that you love and want to do anyways. And it's not hard. Like, I met a guy one time, he made 10 grand a month flipping cell phones. Like, he would buy them in bulk, or he'd lowball people on Kijiji, and he just knew his stuff. He knew what things were worth, and he would just, he's just trading them, right? So,
I have a funny feeling the 10 G's was probably more than what his full-time gig was at some point.
Pretty
you know
close,
what I mean?
right?
Like, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
But still, like, in today's market,
sorry, I didn't finish. So play the long game. So people need to play the long game. Like when you're buying this property, and I like what you and your partner were saying at the event, like don't be just looking at this like 1 or 2 years. Look at this like a decade. Whenever I buy a place, I'm thinking at least 10 years, maybe 20. Like I want to hand this down to my kids. And is it a good buy and hold? Is it a good area? Does it check all the boxes for me? It doesn't have to be perfect because you can overcome a lot of things, but it's kind of hard to overcome a bad area. You can't change the whole neighborhood, right? So play the long game and just like don't be afraid to set up some roots for a while and just start paying that mortgage down, build some equity up, and just hammer it down. Like you make extra payments, you can do lots of different things to get that paid off quicker.
And there's a couple of things I want to unpack there. You said check the boxes. What boxes are you trying to check? Like obviously location, I understand. Yep. What are some of the other boxes that at this point, like you're so deep into it, the amount of properties you have, the amount of people that you've coached, the numbers are huge. And we're going to obviously touch on the actual group itself and how people can get in contact with you guys. But what is it in terms of like, okay, other than location, I'd like to see this, and that before I kind of dive into a property.
Sure. So I learned a lot from that first mentor of mine because he was a bit of a property snob and like he passed up on a lot of different properties. And, he just taught me the differences. He's like, okay, so if you had a choice of buying a brick building versus a vinyl sided building, what would you do? I'm like, well, I think brick because like, I don't know what's behind the siding, or if you got, what kind of insulation you got in there or termite or whatever it might be. Right. If you have a really good purpose built layout, would you go for that? Or would you buy a house, you got a gut and rip out all the studs and redo the layout, right? So it's like, no, get a good layout for sure. Would you want one that had some potential you could unlock, just some things they're not really utilizing, empty, extra space you can maximize, things that the owners aren't really, is there coin laundry? Is there this? Like all the little things that people try to tweak. It's not the end all be all, but those are nice things if you can unlock them. I bought a 5-plex one time and the owner was like, oh yeah, there's no way you can get laundry in this place. Except for the one unit. I built a laundry closet there. I'm like, I looked in the basement. I'm like, you have 5 hot water tanks here. Like I didn't tell her this, but I'm like, just get one big one that recycles quick.
Yeah.
So we have one now, and then we have a washer dry right there. And I'm like, and I'm making $100, $150 a month off of that. Right?
Some hidden equity
it's
there.
It's not hard.
Right.
So
and then
sloppiness. Some people just aren't good with those kinds of things. They just don't really know. But my brain is all about like, how can I tweak? How can I optimize? Right.
So in even in situations like this, I mean that's a great segue into people who are seeing some negative cash flow on properties right now. Just overall, what's your advice to these people in terms of how to hold on, or maybe it's sell or whatever it is, and B, if it's going to be holding on, looking for some of those places where there's some hidden equity, right? Yes. Maybe it's a garden suite. That's where I usually go, especially in the Toronto area right now, downtown Corish. But what are your thoughts around people who are just like in negative cash flow right now?
Definitely. And a lot of people think like, okay, I'm negative cash flow. I guess I got to put my unit on Airbnb. I'm like, I guess you could, but now everybody's doing that. Why don't you go somewhere in the middle? Like for the last 8 years, I've been doing medium-term rental. So what we've been doing is when we get some of our best units that come up, so really nice, like there's got to be some features about the unit because it's got to be marketable, right? So we get our most marketable, coolest units, and we'll just put furniture in them. Like it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's not like this is a $10,000 couch I'm sitting on. Right?
No, so, it's $9,900, but yeah.
That's right. Or $999. So,
yeah.
But we go furnish the units, and now we have a different proposition to the marketplace, and I just love playing in that space because it's not oversaturated, and we can make an extra $500 to $700 a month easily.
So sorry, when you use that word, was it midterm? Not medium term, midterm rentals?
Yeah, so 28 days or more.
28 days or more, and that's just by adding some, like would you add some bed? Like are you adding
we do
mattresses,
it up like
bed?
Airbnb. We might not do all the little knickknacks and all that stuff because people, if they're going to stay there, our ideal person is there for 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
So they're in town for a reason or a season, or they're there for a training, or they're there to like launch a company or an insurance claim. So, I rented to like a European hockey player. He's like, yeah, I'm not playing hockey for 2 months. We just want to be close to my parents. We don't have a house. I don't want to rent a house, get furniture. So you just get to meet all these cool people. And we'll have some vacancy here, a couple weeks here, maybe a month there. But as long as it's rented 10 months out of the year, we're way ahead of the game. And it's just a great niche. And if you don't like the tenant, if they're messy or loud, they're going to be out in a few months anyways. We've never had someone stay beyond, like, oh, you're getting into Landlord-Tenant Act and stuff. I'm like, trust me, guys. Like, you don't get professional tenants. So typically they will go into a furnished unit. Like, they're going to leave.
They're only there for, like you said, that 3 to 6, maybe 9 months. You might have some of that, but it's probably the 3 to 6.
And for 3 months, they prepay everything up front.
100%.
If you don't have it, you're not staying here.
And that's a stipulation. If they're going to be there for 3 months, it has to be paid
like
up front.
Airbnb, you gotta pay it all up front. So we're the same way.
Makes sense. Even if it's 6 months, are you okay with them going monthly?
Yeah, six months. They'll do 3, like first 2, and then a last month's rent plus a damage deposit plus a cleaning fee, right? So they're paying a chunk up front.
And when you said the knickknacks, I went to like, you're not giving them the forks and knives?
Just not like the little, like the little flora, like faunas or whatever you want to call them, or like some of the really decorative stuff that they're going to take off the coffee table anyways and go put it in the cupboard. But everything else, we got art on the walls, we got rugs, we got all that stuff. It's just like the little knickknacks we tend to just.
And you're not putting that up on Airbnb. Where are you putting that up?
Just Kijiji.
Perfect.
Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace. And we also have like relocation companies we work with. We have realtors that kind of they'll get the reach out for these people that might be here for 3 months. It's part of their contract with their job, and then they're going to go house shopping, which is great if they're going to become more of a permanent residence in that city.
And are you finding it in certain cities that it's easier to do, like in terms of location?
Ontario, yeah. So I just find the cities in southwestern Ontario, it's not oversaturated. You know, you got cities like Hamilton and different cities where like they got impacted more with the rate hikes and all that stuff, and prices going down. So there's so many units on the market for rent, or now it's like Airbnb or they're furnished. So that some markets are oversaturated. But again, you just got to be the top 10%. You just got to outmarket them, have better pictures, do your stuff right, so that you can stand out, right, in a world of a bunch of people that might just be using their cell phone. Like, bring in a professional photographer. Bring in, like during COVID, we were using Matterport, filming guys all the time. I'm like, just Matterport the unit so that we can do virtual showings. We just get them on the phone. Yep, you got the file in front of you. Great, let's walk through. There's this room, there's that room, or we get them on Zoom. We just show them the whole place. They're like, oh, this is great. Great, well, are you ready to go? Okay, let's just go sign the contract. We take them on Google Street View. We literally show them the whole neighborhood, all virtually, and people just got used to this, right? So you just got to be willing to adapt.
Are people still doing like stuff on their cell phones, like literally just taking the pictures and putting it up? Like we make in our industry, in the real estate industry, we used to make that joke about agents, and now it's kind of stopped. Like I don't see it on MLS anymore. Like you have to be like the biggest idiot of a real estate agent if like I know I only have a phone. I don't have a computer, and I do talk about that these phones do almost everything, but when you're listing a $800,000 home, you need to bring in the professionals, bring in the Nickies and the Cadens kind of thing, right? But are you seeing that in the rental space still? Like they're not, people are not spending that.
You got to think you're out of the GTA, so it's not $800 to $2.2 million homes. These are $300,000, $600,000, $800,000 homes. So yeah, you still got the OG realtors that'll whip out their cell phone, iPhone 6 or whatever, and still try to take pictures. And then you wonder why it's not selling. It's crazy.
I love it. So I mean, you taught me a lot about the whole midterm, because that's not something that I've been speaking about. Nobody's come on my couch and spoke about that either. And I know it's not a 10G couch, but nobody brought that
and it will help,
$10 million tip to it, because that is massive right now. It's such a white space, in my opinion, because nobody's really speaking about it. And I actually think it would work even really well in the GTA, specifically Toronto, because I would think there would be more people who are in the need of a 3 to 6 month kind of more short term. Would you agree with that?
I would. The opportunities everywhere. So do your research, though. I mean, go and see other people that are marketing this stuff and just say, hey, I'm not trying to be your competition. I'm just trying to get a few in the market. Like, would you mind if I picked your brain a little bit? I want to be an ally of yours, right? So maybe we can share leads in the future and all that kind of stuff. But how are you finding it? Like, how is the demand? Are you guys fairly full most of the time? Like, just, hoping to, person to person here, just hoping to get some information from you.
Opportunities right now with what's happening with interest rates. We're currently fall of 2023. I think it's safe to say that with the new information that just came out, I think it was yesterday, with what's going on with our inflation rate, it's somewhere down to 3.6, 3.8%. They've been trying to get it to 2. I'm not sure why I can't be okay with that 2.5 or 3, but it is what it is. Yeah. I have a funny feeling that the next announcement, October 25th, will be that there won't be a rate increase, but I've been wrong before. But I just reading what some of the major economists are saying. But still, even if they don't increase it, the rates are significantly higher.
They are.
Not from the nonsense, though, right? Like, I'm not talking about the 1.992% rates. It's still higher than kind of the average, which that 4.5%, 5%, if you look over a 20-year period or whatever, right?
My first, probably that sixplex, I remember I was like, paid $420,000 for it, but my interest rate at the time was 5.99.
Perfect, right?
Things at the time were going for in the 6s, and I was happy I got a little bit of a discount on the rate.
So with the rates where they are right now, the cost of borrowing in itself, what are you as an investor possibly looking at, or are you taking a seat back, which I don't think there's wrong with either strategy, and or what are you coaching your investors on in a time like this?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that our students come to us for, Jas, is like, because if you think of like what's the thing that would actually help you no matter what happened in the market. Like, yes, location is very important, but if I just find that one of the biggest fundamentals for a real estate investor is if you can, location's important, but what if you buy in a really great location like New York City, but it might not cash flow, right? But if you can get money on the buy, if you can make yourself a deal, if you can find a deal, then that insulates you from, lots of different things, right? So we're teaching them how to make money on the buy, how to find distressed sellers. And there's people out there that just they got to sell. And so I think, people are either sitting in cash right now, or they're looking for that deal that they can put together creatively. Like, you need to be a creative deal maker. And this is a skill set. It comes through practice. And a lot of people just look at the numbers, go, nope, that one won't work. That one won't work. None of this stuff works. It's like, well, ask yourself, how could it work? And it's going to come to, being creative with the terms, which is that's when you need to have some skills and some optics and some experience and reps on sitting beside someone, and they'll show you, this is how this could work. This is how this could still work. You notice this one has a double lot. You notice this one has good zoning. There's value there, and you can still massage some of these deals. But people are still transacting. It's just less than normal. And there's still going to be great things out there to buy in the next 12 to 24 months.
I actually, when you said distressed sellers, you're starting to see it more and more, right?
It's people coming out now. This is just the beginning.
And I agree. Now, how does somebody find them? Yes, I'm a real estate agent. I'm a real estate broker. I have a team. That is one way. But I know you coach also on the fact, and I've heard you say it before, that have a power team and real estate brokers being part of that. But you also coach on how to find your own.
That's right.
It's not something that I've ever really done outside of when I was a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Because now I kind of have access to it. I also have access to guys like you, and my network has grown. How does somebody actually start to find it themselves if they don't feel like they can connect with a real estate agent? There's also 77, close to 92,000 real estate agents in all of Ontario, and so not all of them are cut from the same cloth in terms of being an investor savvy realtor. And so some people just might not know an investor savvy realtor. So how do they go about doing it themselves?
Yeah, if they want to do it themselves, I still think they should have a realtor on their team, because you're going to need comps and all these other things. But, is a realtor willing to do some of the things that it's going to take, just to help that one client? Probably not. But, just like you're big on, you got to have a CRM, right? You got to have a CRM, you got to have a farming list, all those things. Well, what I've done in my cities that I work in is I've literally paid somebody to go around the whole city, because I didn't have CoStar or access to the Matrix or anything like that you guys have. And I'm literally just go find every single multifamily in the city. It's going to be boring. You're going to be Google Streetcar for 4 days, 5 days. But bring a friend. One person can drive. You can just type. And now I've got a database, right? I've got a database of all the multifamilies. Then we did the reverse lookups to get the tax roll mailing information. So now we can just mail them, right? So now we can start a conversation with them, sending out letters. The letters change over time. And you can do this for small multis. You can do it for bigger multis. It's just going to be different ways you got to access the information. This is what the big guys do. You just got to find a way to get in touch with the owners, and a lot of it's just networking. You got to just know the people, right? Get to know people.
I love that you got
a lot of the bigger multis. They don't even go on the market. They just get traded between other REITs or other big players, and it's hey, I don't need this one anymore. I got to get some liquidity. Do you want to pick this one up? Are you in buy mode, hold mode, sell mode? What are you doing, right? So.
And when you say bigger multis, are you talking 10, 15 above? What's that number for you?
Purpose built.
Purpose built.
16, 24 units or bigger.
Got it. And is that what you're looking for now? Is that kind of what you're...
That's the space I want to start getting into.
Got it.
So with the money that I'm earning, I want to just put it into a more purpose built asset. I've done very well with where I'm buying 3 to 10 unit buildings, but now we want to start getting into bigger stuff too.
And what is the main reason for that? I kind of have a feeling, I know why you're doing it, but for somebody who's watching and listening right now, why get to the 25, the 16 to 24 kind of units?
Yeah, it's just more efficient, So instead of running around and doing work for a triplex, why don't you just run around and do work for bigger plex type buildings? They're more purpose built. They're typically you're dealing with better. Yeah, they're just better fire code, better everything, because they're intentionally built back in the day.
And obviously, there's the financing is going to be slightly different.
Yeah,
from a 3 to a 5, you're going to still be 3 to a 4. Sorry, you're going to be residential, and then. Does anything change when you go from, say, 5 to 10 and then 16 to 24 from a financing perspective?
You're still commercial. You might just end up dealing, as the purchase price gets bigger, you might end up dealing with a different commercial lending department of that, whether it's credit union or one of the bigger banks, right? So some of them are able to do deals between 1 and 3 million, and sometimes you got people on just the bigger deals. So you're going to be going through tiers, but it's all going to be commercial lending.
I always like to tell people that I think that real estate brokers are the most important in the power team, but I'm biased. But I say that jokingly because I actually feel the most important person in the power team is a mortgage broker, because he or she are the ones who are really going to make it rain for you and get the financing. Do you find that is still to be true? Like, is that the most important person? Or is there someone else on the power team that I'm missing now?
I think it's going to be a combination. I mean, it's hard. Like, what do you give more weight to? Your realtor, your lender, your lawyer, or some of your mentors or peers, right? So they're all very important, I find, right? And including your accounting team. So you got to have this like inner circle team. You know, your outer circle is like all your contractors, and they're going to be like, you need a deep bench of them sometimes, right? Like we do in-house property management and stuff too. So we have 3 to 5 of everything: HVAC, plumbers, electricians, all that stuff. So. But like your inner circle, like the people that you kind of guard the most and people are going to help you the most, I think they're all important.
You said a word a couple of times, Kory, and for me it's huge because I wouldn't even be sitting here without the people that kind of let me stand on their shoulders. The word is mentors that you've used now at least 17 times in this episode, and I love it, brother. It's why we got that chemistry. How did you go about finding your mentors? Like, and then I want you to touch on what they were able to do for you, because I got this segment of viewers and listeners that are probably 22 to about 32, Nikki. Is that kind of our range, buddy? Yeah. On the Instagrams of the world where clips of this episode will go on, and then on the actual podcast platforms, we kind of get our analytics.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it's just the space that they've grown up in, and I'm not like shitting on them by any means. They're fucking hardworking people. They're awesome people, and then there's lazy people. But at our age group, there's fucking awesome people and there's lazy people as well. So it has nothing to do with the age, but there's something about the fact that they don't find mentors from the perspective of saying, you know what, if I can't get to the table yet, I'm okay to bring some coffee to the table, right? They don't have that mindset where I feel like I was fuck bringing coffee to the table. I was like, I'll clean the toilets. Let me just be in the conversation. And it's why I think I'm sitting here, because these 4 or 5 guys really took me under their wing. How did you find yours?
Yeah, I guess I just, again, exposed to it at a young age. And hopefully some of these stories will just impart on the people that are listening or watching that, my first coaching experience was with my my sporting coach, right? So I was literally in between grade 8 and grade 9. So a pretty awkward time, right? You're going into like grade school into high school. And this guy, the summer job was just like, I lift weights, and because it's like, what do you do? What do you do for fun? It's like, what sports do you play? And he's like, I lift weights. I'm like, really? Is this like an organized thing? And he's like, yeah, for sure. It's at this high school, 3 days a week. Go in the back door, go check it out. And I went there, and I couldn't see him, so I dipped and I left. And he saw me the next day at work. He's like, where were you? You're supposed to be there resting. I'm like, dude, I went there. I was waiting around for 5 minutes. I didn't see you. Super awkward. Like, I wasn't just going to go walk in and go talk to a bunch of random strangers. So he's like, okay, come again tomorrow. I'll actually be there. I'll wait around for you. And this is back before cell phones. It's like, okay, I got my watch on. You got your watch on. Great. We'll coordinate.
You got to go back home to call the person.
Yeah.
If you have to call them.
Or payphone, right?
Yeah, payphone. Yeah.
So I just got exposed to a coaching relationship at a young age. And then I know you got a sales background. I can literally remember, I've got some experience in sales too. My first sales experience was like literally guys at the mall. They were selling these foam airplanes that would literally do loop-to-loop circles, and they'd sell them for $20. I mean, the plane was probably only worth $3 worth of $2 worth of styrofoam, right? But they were doing it, and they were selling these things like hotcakes. And I was like, can I just help you guys? Like, can I go and get you guys lunch or like anything you guys need? Because first of all, these planes are cool. Second of all, it's cool how you guys are just making money like bank on this product. And they kind of took me under the wings. They taught me how to like, okay, when they do this, like you say this, and this is how you actually sell something. And it was very cool, right? So when for sure, it's like bring some coffee to the table, offer to build the table for them and do whatever it takes for that person just to learn, right? So that's kind of like the apprenticeship model.
Yeah.
And so many people are like, why would I go work for free? Even just getting volunteers for some of our events these days, it's like, it's a great experience. You actually get behind the scenes. You're not paying anything to be in the room. You get all the learning everybody else is getting. You get to be behind the scenes with people that are actually running the event. You get some FaceTime with us. And if you ever have an ask, guaranteed I'm going to spend time with you. Let's just do it proactively. Let's just book a call, and how can I help you, right? So I think people just don't understand there's a right way to ask and there's a wrong way to ask. There's a lot of askaholics out there. They'll just start blowing up your inbox. Hey, can you, it's like, how about we start off with like a hello, how are you? This is what I do. Really appreciate your stuff. Like, man, I've been following you for a while. I had one question for you. Like, could you answer? I do audio and video replies all the time, right? But
Love that.
you know, if people are just ask, and it's like, okay, at a certain point, like, I don't even know who you are. I haven't even introduced yourself. You don't have any stuff on your channel. Like, I just feel disconnected.
Oh man,
you know?
the worst is on LinkedIn. Like, I really hope someone from fucking Microsoft is listening right now and figures out the spam aspect of LinkedIn, because that's all it is. There's no value given at first. It's just an ask for something like, let me, why don't you use my service? Like, it's just weird, man. It's the worst one out of all the social media platforms. But on the flip side, it's probably been, like, right now is the easiest time to find a mentor, because all you have to do is go on Instagram. You could go on LinkedIn and then send a message like what you said. Hey man, like, I really like what you're doing here, yada yada yada. Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Don't even go in and ask the question yet. Yeah. Ask if you can ask a question. Also be okay with, and I was speaking to somebody yesterday.
And stand out, like, share, you know, why don't you just share the person's
share their
stuff,
video? Oh my God,
like,
there's an idea.
Be a bit of a fan, and then, okay, wow, this person's coming up on my feed. You still deal with all your social media inboxes and stuff. So do I. So I would notice that sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, no, of course I actually looked up you because I'm like, you have 10 likes and you've shared my stuff a few times this week. Yeah. Let's talk. Let's get connected. And I liked what you just mentioned, and it just showcases to everybody that you're the real deal, because you went straight into like, yeah, why don't you just share my videos? It's actually going to come up on my radar if I see it happen in a couple of times in a week. But if you're looking for somebody, like, in terms of a mentor, right now, again, as I was mentioning, is the easiest time to find someone. And we're going to get a lot of heck for it, I know, on TikTok, because that's where all the shit comes out in terms of the comments, but I love it, is that there is nothing wrong with working for free at all. That doesn't mean that you have to work for free forever, but to go and learn and get in a room with people. Yes. And you said something before we started. You actually you have your own community that you're growing, but yet you still are paying to be part of another group, just so you can be in that room. For sure.
Which, to most people, like, when you said it, I was like, oh man, I got to make sure that people hear this, because to most people, it'd be like, Kory, you're like, why the fuck you still got to do that, man? Like, why are you paying? And you're like, because I want to grow. I'm sure that's why you're part of the other group. And you're not there to poach people. I know your style. You're not that person. And people are obviously going to come to you because they know you, all the stuff that you do on social. But you still want to learn, and you're actually paying now to be in that group. What was the thought process as you were doing that? Well, because a lot of people at your stage wouldn't do it, man. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and you wouldn't even make time for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, what got you here is not going to get you to the next level. And I'm big on growth and contribution. So if you want to keep growing, you got to keep getting in these different rooms and just finding other people. There's a lot of people in that room that have done things that I haven't done, right? So I haven't done as much development or bigger, like, we're talking about multi-million dollar projects. And, you know, I've got the skills and the background and stuff to do it now. So it's like, I'm not going from like 0 to 100. I've taken my time getting up to speed. So now it's just time to go a little bit faster, do bigger things, right? So, because if you try to go too big, too fast, like, that's a great way to bankrupt yourself or go to business, as you were saying, right? So I think it's important to get into the rooms with the people that have done what you've done. The mentors I have done bigger things than I have. So you're always got to be leveling up. And, you know, you got to make sure that you're evolving as the leader of your own company.
Now, you're a mentor to a lot of people, and you're helping others level up as well. Talk about your group and talk about your coaching. What can people expect from your meetup and your group. I already said what I had to say about it because I experienced it yesterday, and it was
I think
really
one of the coolest things was that you're like, this just exposed me to a whole bunch of new people I've never met before, right?
100%. And it was just the vibe. Like, and somebody was asking me, recording kind of like a testimonial yesterday, and when it comes out, you'll see that it's so authentic because I don't have a script. I don't work off a script, and what I was saying was, you can do a lot through Zooms and these meetups on Zooms, and they're great, right? At least you're doing something rather than nothing.
Yeah.
But man, there was a vibe yesterday, and like Nikki's been with me. What have you been with me for 3 years? 3 years, brother. We've done a lot of that kind of stuff. He came in the morning today because we didn't go home together. He came in the morning. He was like, "Man, that was kind of a cool event." Like,
yeah.
And truth is, he doesn't always say that, and not because he's not a nice guy. He's just like, whatever. It was my gig. It was my job for the day. But he came in today in the morning. He's like, "That was a cool room yesterday." And it had nothing to do with my talk, which was the best talk in the world, right? No, Nikki? Yeah, okay. But it was the fact about the people in the room. And that obviously comes from yourself, Danielle, the rest of the team. But talk about it all, man. I want to
Sure.
like, what can people expect?
Yeah, so I'm infinite results coaching. That's what I do, right there. So it's like, yeah, we all have another level, right? It's
I
important,
love that.
right?
I love that.
If you're not reaching for another level, then what are you doing? Like, we all have something that we can be reaching, stretching, growing for, and I'm extremely passionate about what I'm doing. And somebody told it to me about 5 years ago. They're like, I'm like, why don't more people do this, right? And he's like, actually, everybody gets the phone call on the red bat phone, right? Just not everybody answers it. Because there's so many people out there that are great at what they do, but they just don't want to hand it down and give it down. Because to me, that's the top of the pyramid. If you can just contribute back to society.
Really quickly, not to cut you off. That's what this mug is for. LDL, Leaders Develop Leaders.
Yes.
It's exactly what you're doing, right?
True.
It's just, it's actually the top of our success table,
awesome.
right? It's at the top of our success table. These are all acronyms on our success table. I didn't really understand the periodic table, so I figured I should just make my own success table. And that's at the top. That's at the pinnacle, because that's when it's time that you start to give back to people. And you know this more than anybody. And I want you to continue with what you were saying after, Kory, that if you want to create true wealth, make other people wealthy.
Big time.
It's infinite at that time. It's like, it really, you unlock Pandora's box by giving to other people exactly what you want as well.
Yes.
Right? And so it's a pleasure seeing you do that. So continue, man.
For sure. It's
So how does the whole coaching service, like, how does that whole program work? How does everything work?
As you saw, the passion and the fire is definitely there, and like we're super excited about doing these things. And so I've been doing this for quite some time. As soon as I retired from corporate, people just started reaching out, like, immediately. Like, I was gone for 1 month. It took me 6 months to transition out because it was a big seat to fill. And people just started, like, I want to do what you do. Like, do you teach people how to, like, buy real estate and all this stuff? I'm like, I don't formally, but I can. I'm a systems guy. I'll just put together trainings and learnings and approaches that work and things that I've learned from my mentors and whatever it might be, how to put together it's almost like going to the pantry. Everybody walks in as a different recipe, and, they all want a different cake at the end of the day. So you go to the pantry and work with them to make this beautiful thing happen. So that's what I've been doing for the past 8-10 years, and then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it wasn't easy. Like, there'll be times that I was actually trying to find your video of, like, the first event you guys threw, because I wanted to share that with some people, of, like, how, like, only 2 or 3 people showed up or something like that, right? And there'd be times where I'd speak on a stage, or I'd go drive for hours to go, and I was trying to teach too much instead of, like, people learn by storytelling and examples and inspiration and things like that, because what I was trying to teach them was all the nuts and bolts and the mechanics. They want inspiration. They want to know that it's possible, and I wasn't quite there yet, right? But then things start happening because you plant a seed, get some water on it. So it's growing, and even though things are contracting right now, and then when you can partner up with other great people like yourself, or Danielle approached me about a year ago. It was like 11 months ago. She's like, I heard you speak.
What a ball of fire that girl is. Just crazy amount of energy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's awesome. Continue. Yeah.
For sure. So it's like, what if we found something to do together?
And so is it virtual? Like you obviously have the in-person, but what's
Yeah,
the virtual component to
We
it?
have in person. We have, because you got to try to, like, we can't get people together all the time in person because we're all across Canada. So we do virtual trainings online. It's just like, hey, you can jump on if you want, because we're going to cover one of our 12 key foundations of what makes us successful, whether it's time management, marketing, branding, negotiation, underwriting, all those different things. So one of those calls will be on that, and we get expert speakers on there too. But we have group trainings, one to many. We also have one-on-one.
Okay.
So people go one-on-one. We've got 8 coaches on the roster, and we can work with them one-on-one. That's where they typically get the results faster, because it's like laser focused only on them, right? But in the beginning, it might just be like people might only be able to afford group coaching, and that's okay.
And so, like, for my real estate company, what we do with clients, it's not coaching, right? It's just we take them down a path of what they're looking into doing, and then we're going to reverse engineer it. It starts with what we've coined as a real estate action plan.
Yes.
It could be literally it could be their first condo. It could be a rental property, not as an investment. Sorry, like if they want to be a tenant, whatever it is, right? It's really stolen from the financial industry, which is the KYC, know your client. I have a feeling that you do something of that sort. Like when someone just wants to so Nikki wants to get started with you. Nikki right now currently doesn't have an income property.
Yes.
What's the path? Like, how do you get started with someone like Nikki, for example?
Yeah, like we want to teach them all the fundamentals first.
Okay.
And get that, the roadmap comes once they have the clarity, because man, it's such a noisy space. Like, it's like, should I do this or should I do that, or I saw this guy, and I heard somebody kind of explain it really well, where it's like, if you're chasing after someone else's vision and values, you're always going to be lost. But if you get more in touch with your own vision and values, like what do you value in life? Okay, great. Let's make a vision for that, and then let's go execute on that. Like, we'll find the multifamily or the flip or the furnished rental or whatever it might be. I always go for the highest yielding stuff anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, everybody's got their own path. It's just like uncovering that path for them based on their personality, their goals, their past experience, what their true blessings are. Like, what do they have to bring to the table that can really light things up? And we put that together and we say, hey, this is your plan, right? So we do plans and blueprints as well. But if they don't have the fundamentals down, it's like, we got to fill your cup up first.
Yeah, I love that.
And then we can get you to execute more.
Yeah, I love
So some people need education. Some people need help stabilizing or scaling or systems or whatever, right? So we work with a lot of beginner to intermediate investors.
Got it.
If somebody wants to buy high-rise apartment buildings, I'm probably not your guy. Go talk to somebody else about that sort of stuff. But if you look at most real estate investors, they're probably not going to go past 10 properties. A lot of them struggle to just get 1 or 2. And sometimes they don't even like that, but it's a good education to make sure that you got some, you're going to hold on to this asset class a little bit, or you don't need 10, you can still, these 2 will help you out in retirement.
It felt yesterday, and just stuff that I'm watching on your social, some of the content that you're putting out there. And for everybody who's watching and listening, like, if you haven't got this already, like, go follow Kory. It's all over, I'm sure, wherever you're watching and listening to this. What is your favorite?
And if people are watching one of my clips, make sure you're following Jas.
I appreciate that. What is your favorite platform? If you just had to choose one, like, where that, not as a viewer, like, where you like to send people, where is that?
I like Instagram. Instagram
is that the spot? Okay, so go follow. And what's the handle there?
Just my name, Kory MacKinnon.
That's easy. Make sure you follow. What I'm noticing more on your content, and I felt it kind of yesterday, obviously what I spoke about is outside of investing into real estate. You guys are touching on other aspects than just like the nuts and bolts of how to negotiate a deal, how to underwrite a deal, how to find a deal, all important stuff in an investment coaching business. Yes. And learning and getting educated on. But I feel like you're talking about, you had me speaking about the importance of branding yourself. Yes. So you can, what I was trying to articulate, and hopefully I did, yesterday was the importance of branding yourself, which will make it easier for you to become the authority and raise capital. Yes. And have people come to you and not chase after them. That topic itself is outside of, like, as I mentioned about the world of investing in real estate. What made you guys go down that path? Like, it's not just the nuts and bolts, which, no knock on anybody else. I think, I'm involved with probably all the investment groups in some fashion or form right across the country. And they all have their pros. They all have things that you want to consider, and not every group is for everyone and all that kind of stuff. But I like that about what you guys are doing. Sure. I feel like it's a little different.
It is, right? Because I mean, with the background I have, and I've got lots of business experience, investing experience, and coaching on both sides, as well as sporting, right? So I looked at all those different sectors. I'm like, what are the things that really mess people up? Like, I could give you a training plan to get to the Olympics, literally, in any sport. But it's like, will people follow through? Do they have accountability? Are they taking care of their health, their energy? And yeah, becoming the authority. Like, yeah, there's certain things people can become the authority before they're actually really kind of like the authority, right? But it's about the exposure, it's about the attention, and it's about, you know, just letting more people know who you are, getting that clarity, getting that focus. So all the things that people might lack, if you can get your mindset under control, and some other, you know, just things with health and relationships and self-talk and all these different things, right? The mechanics are very easy. Like, it's just wash, rinse, repeat. It's not like what we're trying to do is rocket science here. We give them a very simple execution plan, because the more complicated something is, the more chance they're just not going to fall through anyways. So I'm pretty granular, I'm pretty tactical and stuff like that, but I also want to be high level too and just go, look guys, we got to free up more of your time. So that's time management. We've got to keep you focused. We got to give you a clear plan. We've got to get the mindset right so you can actually execute. You're not beating yourself up, and you just got to realize that this big thing you're trying to do, all the little stuff are the big wins. Like, you did 100 steps to go get a deal. You did 5 this week. That's awesome. Let's go get another 5 or 10. We're getting there, right? It's going to happen. So you can't eat a pizza in one bite. So we do all the other stuff, and then yeah, like the tactical is about 20%, but all the other stuff is like the 80%.
I mean, where are you finding like to stay positive? Because you're a very positive guy by nature. Like,
yeah.
In the short period of time that I've known you, in the couple of years, I mean, in the big scheme of things, that's not that long. But I've been watching you, as I mentioned, on content. Like, how are you staying positive, man? Because it's hard out there for a lot of people, right?
Sure.
To have that mindset. I'm bang on with the numbers with you. I think it's 80-20. Like, 80% is all mindset, 20% you can pick up on the tactics.
Yes.
You could meet some people, they'll figure it out. You don't need to know how to edit a video.
True.
There's these guys that can handle that stuff. That's their forte. That's their expertise, right? The 80% is wanting to get up in the morning and do this conversation, right?
That's right.
How are you staying positive?
You know, I think when you're living a bigger life and you're pushing hard anyways, like, it's like your past work ethic. I'm sure like, just being young, most salespeople are used to working long hours, because it's like you get that, like, wow, I'm actually making good money. I'm the one that actually writes my paycheck, so I'm going to go put more gas in and just keep pushing harder. I remember one of my first sales jobs was selling natural gas distributorships door to door. So I stayed out all weekend because I'm making $40 a house, right?
Yeah.
So I just kept working it, right? Yeah. So you get used to the no's and all those kinds of things, but you also get used to long hours too. So when something comes sideways, or you know, I've heard some great sayings, like, typically you won't find a hater that's doing greater.
Yeah.
Which is very true. Because why would they be hating on you if they actually, like, most people that are performing at a high level, they want to lift you up and they want to help you. So just ignore all that noise. But yeah, it's a challenging world. But when you've been through other big challenges yourself, typically, which will happen when you're living a big life and you're pushing hard anyways, a lot of this stuff, it's not permanent. All this stuff is temporary. We are going to get through it. I've seen my parents get through stuff. I've been through stuff. We've had losses. I think it's the people that play safe too much. And this was something that we always looked for when we were in HR in my old company. We'd be sitting down with this kid who has the potential to run a 6-figure business that summer. And we're like, what's your biggest setback you've ever been through? And some of them would just be like, I don't know. Maybe I failed a test. That's all that's ever happened. I'm not looking for, like, both my parents died in a flaming car accident. Like, right. No, but it's like, I want to see that you actually fell on your face and you had to get up.
Especially, like, in the world of entrepreneurship. Yeah.
So now it's to the point where it's like, I don't know, like, I tend to get set more by the little things that I can't control. Like, my 4-year-old daughter is just like, she just won't stop, and there's nothing that you can do to stop. Whereas, like, my wife could get in a car accident right off a car. I'm like, let's get a new car. That's what insurance is for, right? It's not the end of the world. So you focus on what you can control. The other stuff that you can't, you just got to learn how to adapt to it. But I think it's that resiliency that you build up over time. I've got resiliency, and you know, if people are challenged by that, you just got to put yourself into situations where you're going to get challenged more. You're going to be able to flex and grow, and it's like a muscle or like a callus. It's going to build up over time, and you'll get there as well.
And I think that's why it's so important to be parts of groups, like be part of groups that are inspiring, they're uplifting, because look, it's not like they're going to tell you every single moment that you're having if you're having a bad moment, it's not like the only answer that you're going to hear is not going to be get over it. They understand it, but they're not going to let you sit in it and dwell in it for 9 days or 8 days, right? Like
that's a great trait of successful people. I mean, it's like when I see successful people, stuff happens to them. Yeah, they get upset, they'll get emotional. They don't live there though. They get on with it, right? Like, when people go from like a 10 to a 1 and they stay there, it's like, no, I go from like a 10 to like a 7.5, and then I get pretty much back up to an 8 or 9 pretty quickly.
Exactly.
It's that whole temperature thing. It's like, you just can't let these things just wreck your day or your week, your month.
Yeah, and it's
what
okay
do you
to
focus on, right? If you're focusing on going forward.
So true, brother. I mean, because look, whatever you focus on, you're gonna bring. Look, whatever the brain thinks about, it brings about, right? Yep. And so if you're always in a 1, using your analogy, a 10 to a 1, well, the universe doesn't know the difference between your thoughts in terms of good thoughts or bad thoughts. It just gives you more of it. I always use the example of gravity, right? Like, it doesn't matter. It's going to do its thing. It doesn't matter if you believe in it or not. It's always going to do its thing, right? And so the law of vibration works the same way. But I think it's very important for people to understand that are watching and listening right now. It doesn't happen. People like Kory, people that are at doing things at a very high level, they've come to learn that you have to get out of these things as quickly as possible. And the best way to stay at a 7.5, 8, 9, 10 is because the people you surround yourself with, right? Sure. Because you will become the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. And so the nice thing is that if you hang around with 5 positive people, uplifting people, you have a really good chance of being number 6. Just watch out though, it works the other way. If you hang around 5 people that are not positive, they're not uplifting, they're not motivating, they're not inspiring, and they're trying to bring you down, the crabs in the bucket kind of theory, chances are you can be number 6 as well. And so, buddy, I love what you guys are up to. Everybody who's watching or listening, like, do yourself the favor. Not only follow our boy, because I already spoke about that, but like, go check out the website. I want you to mention the website in a second, Kory, and we will definitely put it on all the descriptions and the links here. But check out the website, see what they're up to, see when their next meetup is, see when their next virtual is, and just get a taste of it. Like, get a taste of it. You don't have to, jump right in. You don't have to get married to everyone there. Maybe give it a little taste, see if it's something that you might be interested in. I have a funny feeling that when you get with the crew, because I've been around these groups for such a long time, you are actually going to find those inspiring, uplifting, motivating people. But don't take my word for it. Why don't you guys test it out? What's the website, brother?
Yes. Well, before I get to that, I just want to touch back on and make sure people understand, like, this isn't woo-woo stuff we're talking about. Like, vibration and energy is a real thing. Like, 6 years ago, I spent all this, invested actually like a significant amount of money to be in Tony Robbins' inner circle, right? So got to go around the world, go to every single one of his events. He does 24 a year. I think I went to 14 that year. And the biggest thing that I got from being in that room was he attracts a great tribe. And just the vibration and the energy, like when you are surrounded by a different group, everybody's more positive. There's no a-holes in that room. It's just like everybody's there. They're doing their best. They're performing something at a high level. Just things start opening up for you, right? Because now you're vibing at a higher level too. And if you ever met a significant partner in your life when you're down and depressed, and no, like, probably not. You're not really doing anything, right? So this stuff, there's no camera out there. There's no meter to measure it, but it's a real thing when you're around happy people that are doing things, they're positive. And it's, that's kind of what we got going in the room. So, people can definitely follow me. The website is a combined website with me and Danielle. It's strategicconsulting.com. So go check it out. That's where we post stuff. It's always going to be in the link tree in our bios as well. And we're going to be obviously probably changing websites and growing different things over time too. But we're not hard to find. And get in the room. Go check it out. We're going to be we're building it on a really strong foundation, which is what you guys got to see yesterday. And from there, it's just going to get bigger and bigger.
I've seen rooms at, the 100, 150 people that were there yesterday and it blowing up to 3, 4, 5, 8,000. I have no doubt. If you guys quit, that's a different story, right? I just don't see that in you. But even if you do, that's okay, because life changes and all that. But if you guys don't quit, there's no doubt in my mind you guys are going to have that big of a community, because I already saw the foundation and I've seen it before. Not once, not twice. Like, it's like 5, 6 times. All the groups that I'm with now, they all started at those numbers, right? They all started with 0, actually. But there's no doubt with the leadership of yourself, Danielle, and I'm not sure who else is involved. But definitely,
team, so thanks to everybody.
Great team. Yeah, I mean, big kudos to the whole team. We felt like stars yesterday, rock stars. You guys made us feel like home. So I really appreciate that. You probably had nothing to do with it. It was probably your team. But big shout out to them as well. But Kory, man, I'm so excited. We're not gonna do this like only another time. We're gonna do this like 10, 20 more times, because I love just watching your journey, being part of it in a way, obviously through social, but just conversations like this. And I want to keep bringing you back, man. So I hope you're okay with that. Anytime you're in Toronto, I love what you did this time. Jas, I'm coming to Toronto. Let's hook up. So that was a no-brainer. Thanks again for having me. I really appreciate that. But keep doing what you're doing, brother. Congratulations. Really, really proud of you, man.
Well, and likewise, man. It's inspiration to watch you and what you're doing.
Thank you. My mom's happy.
That's right.
Thank you.